Breaking news out of Auburn football's fall camp. One of the biggest storylines has been who is going to be the quarterback. Hugh Freeze has officially confirmed who that will be. Let's get into it, react to the news, talk about who that's going to be and the implications for the 2023 season coming up right now. War Eagle Auburn family and War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, we appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. This is an impromptu live stream breaking news officially confirmed via Coach Hugh Freeze himself. Payton Thorne, what a lot of people thought the news that would be coming, but officially from the mouth of Hugh Freeze himself, will be the starting quarterback, that being Payton Thorne. Obviously, a lot of people thought this is the way this would go. There apparently were some twists and turns reportedly throughout the quarterback battle. But as the breaking news today that we are discussing, reacting to, this is an initial just kind of getting it out there, discussing how we feel about it, the quarterback situation as a whole, and how it will go forward. We'll talk a little bit about some commentary from Coach Hugh Freeze as well. Obviously, this show is mainly about you guys too. I'll be in front of the camera talking about a lot of the things, but I want to hear your comments, your questions, thoughts that you have about this. Put them in the chat if you're watching live. Obviously, if you're on the replay, we can redress those after that. So just let us know what your thoughts are on the news breaking today. A couple things that you can do to help us get started. Smash that like button, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, wherever else you find this. Share it out. Big thing that you can do for us to help us continue to grow our little family within the Auburn family. And of course, you can go ahead and start the process of getting the chat going, the comment section going by posting right now where you're watching from, your city, your state. If you're international, do that too. With a War Eagle, let me know who's here and who's interested in talking about this particular topic today. We got a couple of people already checking in. Thank you guys so much for checking in live right here. So many familiar faces. Good to see all of you. I imagine this is exciting news for a lot of people in terms of what we all perceived to be the news that we would expect to hear from this, Payton Thorne being named the starter. However, I think just in general, what Auburn fans wanted is just to know the answer, right? We wanted to know who was going to be, at least for game one, the expected general back there to be leading the troops out on the field against UMass. Obviously, anything can change when you're named a starter. That means you have to continue to earn the right to start there. So for those of you that may be a Robbie Ashford fan and Holden Geriner fan, and I am as one of those as well, I'm all three of these guys, do not dismiss them from their opportunities that still lie before them. They still will have the opportunity to continue to compete, practice like they're going to start, and you never know what happens. We saw last year we had to go through a couple of quarterbacks. Holden even had to come in last year as a true freshman. So while the initial battle, the initial discussion about who's going to be the starting quarterback is done, doesn't mean that the story does not continue from here on out. I like that Freeze confirmed there will be a package for Robbie. He is too good an athlete to keep him off the field. It's kind of what a lot of us have been saying all along, Thomas. You've said that. I mean, everybody's kind of acknowledged that Robbie Ashford is an incredible athlete and is coming along as a quarterback. And so it's idiotic to even think that you could leave an athlete like that with the experience that he has off the field and not find a way to utilize him, whether that's traditionally as a quarterback, as a wildcat quarterback, as a special package type of guy, whatever the situation, you get them on the field whenever you can do that, because it is a necessity to get them out there and make them be a difference in the game. So we will see Robbie Ashford is what it sounds like. I don't remember in my brief look through of the commentary coming from the press conference if Holden was addressed specifically. I know that Coach Hugh Freeze did say that any one of these guys he felt good about being the starting quarterback. He just felt like consistently, leadership, all those kind of intangible aspects. Payton was just the leader in all of those aspects, which really shouldn't surprise you, right? It really shouldn't surprise you that the guy who's been in college football the longest, who's been part of Power 5 football the longest, who's been, by all accounts, the heir apparent to this, we would be saying these things about him. If you recall back to when he first got to campus, Hugh Freeze was asked about him and talked about how he was always in his phone trying to ask him questions, getting to know staff and players, really becoming a student of not just the game, but of this program. So Payton Thorne obviously put in the legwork. And doesn't that make you feel good too? It makes me feel good knowing that this guy didn't just walk in here and expect to start, right? Because there's a lot of quarterbacks probably have the right to feel that way and act that way. But by all accounts, this guy walked in and started earning it from the get-go there. So in terms of legitimizing this selection by Hugh Freeze, the only legitimacy it needs is Hugh Freeze himself, frankly. But for those of you that are, and I understandably so, more so in the Robbie Ashford camp, more so in the Holden Geriner camp, know that this guy has, from what all we can tell, has earned his opportunity to be the starting quarterback at Auburn University, at least for game one. QB1 for game one. Kevin says he thinks Payton Thorne will lead us to a 4-0 record. Only going the 4 games, though, Kevin? I hope. Normally, I thought Kevin was going to say 12-0, but I'll take 4-0 just to get us started off with for the year. I think, obviously, you're going to see Robbie a lot in general, but I think you're going to see Robbie a lot in game one. Hopefully, this means we'll get to see Holden a little bit, too, as well. I agree with this thinking. And I think last night, if most of you were here for our Auburn family night, we kind of were discussing some of these things about the quarterback situation. It's kind of getting to that point where you really need to create some stability for the program, some direction for the program going forward. And I think that was the main decision-making behind this. Hugh even said, I think I could almost take a direct quote here. If I go with my gut, I'm usually right. And even, if I can be wrong is what he said, but at the same time, his gut is usually a pretty good one. And I would say he has a pretty good track record for being right about quarterback and football decision-making processes. So we're going to trust him that he has made the right call here for Payton Thorne. Let's see. Travis checking out. I don't know if I said hello to you. Unbeaten Lake brings up the big point. As long as we have an offensive line, we should be good. And really, so folks that put so much into a quarterback, there's a good reason to put so much into the quarterback position, because they are the offensive field general, but usually the team general as well. But there's so much more that goes into the success of a quarterback than just their own skill. Bo Nix is a perfect example of that. Look what he's doing at Oregon when he finally got some support. I'm not saying Bo was perfect. So those of you that just love to hate on Bo Nix, don't hear that at all. I'm not saying he wasn't without his faults. But to say that he had the full support he needed to be as successful as he could here is just ignoring the facts. So as long as you have an offensive line, receivers that are going to be reliable, a running game that can get going, you can be pretty successful. There's been some pretty mediocre quarterbacks at Alabama that have been pretty doggone successful, if I may say so myself. Damian, check it in. Good to see you here. Let's see here. Cody says, I got to meet Thorne at Fan Day. It was amazing. Does have leadership. He does have the love for the program. He's a good choice to go with for starting quarterback. Took a picture with me and my girlfriend. He's a true Auburn man, and he would even give you a good laugh. Look, that's all great stuff to hear. And obviously, those are the little intangibles that you want in someone that's coming here for effectively 1 year, right? That's another aspect of this, that those of you that are really disappointed that Robbie or Holden didn't win this thing, this is a guy that's here for 1 year, essentially. I think officially, we should confirm this before we actually talk about these things, Kyle. On the roster, let's see what he's listed at. I believe this is his 4th year, but I would guess that he still has technically a COVID year. I think most people would tell you that if he balls out this year, he is going to go try his luck in the NFL. Payton Thorne listed as a junior. So yes, he would have another year to stay here at Auburn. Now, selfishly, if we're that good and, he still feels like he's got something to prove in the college game and it's a successful time this year, I would hope that we could keep that continuity. But obviously, we've got some great quarterbacks behind him right now. They're going to play. I know what a lot of you are thinking about too. What does this mean for Robbie? What does this mean for Holden? Hank Brown just got here, so we're not worried about him necessarily, as far as I would know, going anywhere. Sawyer Pate and all the other guys that not necessarily were in the 3-man race, but part of the quarterback room, not really discussing what their options are because it's just really those main 3 guys. Does Robbie or Holden Geriner leave? Doesn't sound like Robbie will, because there was a very clear and adamant point by Hugh Freeze in this press conference to make sure Robbie is acknowledged for what he's going to be doing for this team. I think the question becomes, does Holden seek other opportunities elsewhere, given the fact that Walker White is also going to be coming in next year too? I hope not, but obviously it is a potential. Damian was pulling for Robbie. I think most people would say that we were all pulling for these guys. Maybe not the same, but just in general. I think when you see a guy like Robbie do what he did last year with very little, it's hard not to pull for him. So your heart does kind of hurt for him. It does. And I know there's a large crop of people that are probably very disappointed with this decision. And I can understand why, because the guys put in a lot of time and effort here, and to have a transfer come in and steal the job from him from last year, that's a tough pill to swallow. But even Hugh Freeze said in this press conference that if it's handled the right way by these 2 guys, could work out in their favor down the line. Payton Thorne is just a bad stretch of games or an injury bug away from not being the guy anymore. Robbie needs to be ready. Holden needs to be ready. So I understand if you were still rooting for someone else in this equation. Jerry says everyone needs to let the coaches, Coach Freeze, let them coach. Has coached his share of QBs, and I believe he has done pretty well with his choices. Ashford will be used throughout the year in situational times, guaranteed. Yeah, and I feel you on that, and I understand, but that we're here to discuss things. And I know you're not necessarily saying that about why are we even having this discussion, but it is frustrating sometimes when you see fans create division where there doesn't really need to be. Hopefully that's the way that quarterback room is going to be after this point. Thank you for confirming that, Thomas. I'm a little late seeing that, but yeah, I figured it was 2 years of eligibility. Brian says folks are about to be surprised with Thorne's legs. So let me tell this to you. I have the privilege of being on a pretty large YouTube channel, The Voice of College Football, as a kind of an Auburn commentator whenever he is gracious enough to allow me on there. His name is Mark Rogers, The Voice of Auburn Football. You can find it on YouTube, and I think most other places too, but YouTube is the place to go. It's just the place to be. He said that we are not giving people in general are not giving Payton Thorne enough credit for what he can do with his legs. So to your point, that seems to be the case. I think he's got a lot more time to heal up from whatever his injury. And I think his injury was actually shoulder, so it doesn't really matter there. But I think he's actually got a lot more agility and movement than a lot of people give him credit for. Could have 2 QBs on the field at the same time. I think I've seen it discussed. If you have Robbie out there in a slot situation and kind of have him as an opportunity to even just sling a shot in the flats to him just to get the ball in his hand. Sure. I think Robbie has a great opportunity this year, if he wants to be the starting quarterback after this year, to really show great leadership and humility behind Payton Thorne and learn from him. And if I'm Robbie Ashford and I'm comfortable where I am and I want to remain at Auburn and I think I can still have success here, I'm rooting for Payton Thorne to have an outstanding year. Because if he has an outstanding year, he's probably going to go to the NFL. If he also has an outstanding year, that means that we're beating teams more easily than we have of late, which means more playing time for him at the quarterback position and having, more series as just him at the quarterback, pulling Payton out earlier. If I'm Robbie Ashford and I've heard this news, I'm practicing like I'm the starter, and that's easier for me to say than I acknowledge that it's easy for me in a chair and a microphone to be saying that. But if I'm Robbie Ashford, I practice like I'm the starter, and I hope that Payton Thorne balls out. So he'll get out of here. Now, as a fan, I'm not wishing that, right? I'm hoping he balls out, but I'm hoping that, selfishly, that we can keep the band together as long as possible. Kevin thinks that Holden will stay, and I love the optimism behind that, Kevin. However, I do see a tougher road for him unless a lot of what was being discussed during fall camp actually was true, and Holden has really taken some strides and made this a much more difficult situation and decision for Hugh Freeze. So that could be as well. Scotty, good to see you. Thanks for being a channel member. By the way, since you are a channel member, I'm going to remind this to channel members whenever I see them here. Make sure you're checking your perks out. $1 a month is all you have to do to be a channel member. There's something you could be taking part in if you'd like to. So check that out, Scotty. It says Robbie may not be the starter, but I do think they have plays designed for him. Absolutely. Coach Hugh Freeze has said as much. Prediction, 4,000 passing yards and 45 touchdowns. That is quite the prediction, Unbeaten Lake. Be really, really, really nice. Brian says Thorne gives me Stidham vibes and not a bad thing. You clarified that a little bit later. Yeah, listen, I think Jarrett Stidham, from what I remember, and it's not that long ago, but it's a lot to kind of keep all track in your head. When Jarrett Stidham was hot, he was on just fire. But when he kind of had some underwhelming moments there too. So let's hope that it's more of that other side of the equation there. And I'm really hoping that we're going to have a lot of consistency from this guy and have him just go absolutely bananas this year, because I want him to be able to play as much as he can out there, obviously, and stay healthy. But I'd love to also get Robbie some more opportunities to play. Holden as well. So maybe we ask this in the room. What do you guys think in terms of, is Payton going to keep this job all year? What does your gut tell you? Obviously, you've got 4 games that are, pretty laid out right there. You got UMass, Cal, Samford, and then it would be Texas A&M, I think. So that first big test is going to come up. So I don't know that, barring big circumstances in the first 3 games, you're going to see a change happening. But with that first big test of Texas A&M on the road, that could be really where Payton gets the opportunity to keep or lose the job, especially if it kind of falls off the wheels a little bit. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not saying we're going to automatically win the game just because Payton Thorne's there, but this guy is a seasoned pro and has been around the block a few times at Power 5 football. So you got to think that bodes well for him. Thomas says it depends on his overall command of the offense and limiting turnovers. I really think, we've got to limit the turnovers this year. What do they call it? Being a game manager. That's kind of like the generic way of saying, hey, you do all these intangible things just right enough to be able to earn the leadership qualities and trust of your team and your coaches if you're a game manager. If there is a switch, it will be between games 4 and 6. That is the tough stretch. Texas A&M, Georgia, LSU. So here's a good question now in reacting to this news. would you change your, like, what is your perspective now? Payton Thorne is the starting quarterback, and we're going to assume that he is for as long as we can. Let's just think the best in this situation, that he's going to be the starting quarterback for the year. Does that change your perspective on the first 6 games? So including that really tough stretch. Like, if Robbie was the quarterback, would you have said we lost or won more of those games? Anybody have any thoughts on, like, how the naming of the quarterback changes your perspective of this team? Because frankly, for me, a lot of you have asked me to give an official prediction. I'm going to, especially now with this news. I was waiting to see who was going to be the quarterback before I make a final decision on a final prediction for the year. Yeah, that was a big issue. I also want to know the further situation with Jarquez. I don't know that we're going to get that information, but that was a big piece of the news that I wanted to hear. Also kind of wanted to see what was happening in other fall camps too, and hear the scuttlebutt about that. But really, I wanted to know what our quarterback situation. Scotty says that he's going to keep his job. I think for everybody involved, that's the best thing, right? Auburn needs a year of just a solid quarterback staying healthy and being a game manager to get us back on track and in a continuous, consistent, positive trajectory as a program. And again, if you're Robbie, if you're Holden, I am rooting the heck out of this guy. Ball out, dude, and get out of here. So I can have your spot after that. And what a great opportunity, as I've said earlier, to learn under Payton Thorne. Learn the offense for another year. Because here's the thing, folks. Payton Thorne has been here the least time out of all 3 of those main quarterbacks. So it should say something that he has those intangibles and that he's been able to come in and more limited time than the other 2 quarterbacks and still win the job. Yeah. So there you go. I feel better about the Texas A&M game because Thorne makes it more balanced offensive attack. Teams can't load the box if Thorne has a solid arm. And yeah, so I think that's the stigma right there, right? So we have all put Robbie Ashford into this box that says he is a mobile quarterback that traditionally is going to be more deadly with his legs. But that's based off of what we've seen, right? Given that, I would say that the opportunities that he had last year didn't really bode well for him to show his arm. Now, when he did, y'all remember that ball he threw in the Iron Bowl, that beautiful back of the end zone throw there? That's the potential of Robbie Ashford right away. So, yes, on the surface, are we more multidimensional with Payton at the helm? Given that lots of people, even outside of Auburn, say don't knock his legs. Yes, on paper, we can say that. But what we don't know is how much Robbie has progressed in the traditional quarterback sense and in a throwing thing. He will do good as long as he's protected. Kind of like somebody else said earlier. Yes, doesn't matter who's at the quarterback. We've got to make sure this year we are protecting the quarterback. And beyond that, we have got to make sure that when the quarterback is working in a good rhythm, when the offensive line is providing good protection and creating a consistent run game, the wide receivers also have to step up. That's the biggest thing when these last 2 to 3 years of questions at quarterback is, yes, there have been some struggles at the position, but it has gone much deeper and much further than Bo Nix, than TJ Finley, than Robbie Ashford, than Holden Geriner. It is a holistic issue, not just the quarterback. It's a big part of the equation. But yes, you have to provide protection from them. All right, we're sitting at about 25 minutes on our impromptu reaction stream. I want to hit any other thoughts that you all have, comments and questions about this particular topic to round out the show. Not going away just yet, but let me go ahead and give you the stuff that I always do at the end of every show, just so you know what to look forward to here on E2C Network. Our next scheduled live stream. That was the wrong button to push. That was just a little bit to wake you up there. Our next scheduled live stream is the Auburn Experience, episode 48, 9 o'clock Eastern on Sunday evenings. Do not miss it. Would love to have you there. If you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. We're at 4,000 subscribers, or almost there. Once we hit it, our subscriber giveaway ends, and we're going to give that out right away. So make sure you are subscribed if you are not. If you want to be a channel member, $1 a month is what gets you in the door. There are some other tiers available. Down there, hit the join button on YouTube, or you can go to patreon.com/E2C Network to sign up there for some different perks and get in on the action with us here. We got a good crew of channel members, what was formerly known as the Booster Club members, that are in that company. So I'd hope that you all would come take a part of that. Food for thought. We produce Heisman Trophy running back candidate in 4 years. I'm not understanding, Scotty, what you're getting at there. But yeah, we might even have a quarterback Heisman Trophy winner in the next few years. Who knows? It's about high time that Auburn kind of got back into that equation. For a while there, we were having a lot of conversations with Auburn running backs being in there. It'd be nice to have a quarterback back in that discussion yet again. You should think about going live about 7. Us working folks are in bed by 9. Listen, I go live when I can. And when it works best for the schedule. On Sunday evenings, that's a scheduled thing just because me and Austin are able to meet during that time. 8 o'clock when I have scheduled live streams that are well planned in advance, usually plan them for 8 o'clock any night, but definitely Wednesday. So the set schedule for us here is Wednesday nights at 8, 9 on Sunday nights for the Auburn experience, and then impromptu live streams like this. So, just why you got to be subscribed. Stay tuned to what we've got going on here, because you never know when news like this starts to stir up. We're going to get on there and talk about it. Obviously, this is the big news that we were all sitting and waiting on from fall camp. I can't imagine that we're going to get any update on Jarquez Hunter's status for the first game. Probably won't know that until the week of / game time. So this will, I don't anticipate any big update live streams in the near future, but I don't know that we all thought this was coming today. Receivers definitely have to step up for the quarterback. The offensive line has to step up. It is what we've learned over the last few years is the quarterback position has got to have some help, and it goes all the way around. So let me start winding down our thoughts here. Get your last minute comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals when now. And let me know anything that we haven't hit specifically about the quarterback situation and Payton Thorne being named. Obviously, the breaking news, Payton Thorne named quarterback. Hugh Freeze has said that it is the starter for game 1 and doesn't necessarily mean that won't change. That's kind of a general coach statement anyway. You got to go out there and earn that starting job every single week. Kind of the way we've all discussed it. The first 3 games shouldn't present a lot of problems for Payton to maintain it, but that first big road game on the road is going to be that Texas A&M game. Yes, we have the Cal game, but Texas A&M, Cal, much bigger competition, right? So keep that in mind. That'll be the game that you want to watch to see how Payton, this offensive line, the receiver cores, and the running game all work together in cohesion or not, and see how successful he is going to be there. Doesn't mean that it changes after that point, even if it's not successful, but it is a big measuring stick that we will all be looking towards after the first 3 games. Robbie Ashford is going to be utilized, according to Coach Hugh Freeze, and Holden Geriner will, I guess, effectively be the 3rd string. I guess, I don't know that he's officially said that, but that's kind of what the reading between the lines in, which I hate for the kid. Seems like he's had a really good camp, progressed in his last year. There's a lot of thought that maybe he was going to really be pushing for that starting spot. So I hope that those 2 can stay vigilant, stay ready, and I hope they'll remain around here at Auburn. But keep in mind that this class has just started, and that if one of the 2 doesn't feel comfortable in their situation here for the year, obviously they could seek a transfer somewhere else at this point. Holden has not used that transfer that I think was granted to everybody. Robbie has, so I don't know how that all works out for them. Anyway, so with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in to our live stream here today. being part of our reaction show. Always appreciate and get to see familiar faces and new faces. You guys continue to be the best little family within the Auburn family. I appreciate you being here to hang out with me. Till I talk to you again. War Eagle.